consider submissions from the public on matters considered by council at this meeting only. All councillors undertook an oath or affirmation at the beginning of their term of office and declared to undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Broken Hill local government area and the city of Broken Hill, that they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment. This council meeting is being streamed live via YouTube and recorded and published via council's website. To those present in the gallery today, by attending or participating in this public meeting, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Mayor and or General Manager have the authority to pause or terminate the stream if comments or debate are considered defamatory or otherwise inappropriate for publishing. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if they engage in unlawful behaviour or commentary. We have nil apologies. We have 2 leave of absence, one from Councillor Hayley Jewett, submitted leave of absence application for this meeting, provided the reason personal reasons. Deputy Mayor Jim Hickey submitted a leave of absence request for this meeting due to prescribed reason under the Code of Meeting Practice. Can we have a move of those?
Move that way.
Moved Councillor Gallagher, seconded Councillor Boland. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Councillor Gallagher.
Yes, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the land of Winnicali people. Pay our respect as elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you. Councillor Aldgate.
We take time to reflect, remember and honour the over 800 miners that lost their lives and those that were crippled or maimed on the line of load. We thank the brave miners and their wives who were part of the 1919-1920 strike that lasted over 500 days and delivered a 35-hour working week. Mining is our past and our future.
Thank you, Councillor Aldgate. The first public forum session of 15 minutes duration will consider submissions from the public regarding matters listed for consideration at this meeting and also on general managers matters. The public have been advised through council's website to register by 4 p.m. today if they wish to address council during the public forum session. Members of the public who have registered to address council will be given preference, and then if time permits, anyone else present in the public gallery may address council. Speakers are allocated 2 minutes to address council. Do we have anyone wishing to speak? No. Minutes for confirmation that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council of the City of Broken Hill held June 26, 2024 be confirmed. We have a mover for the minutes. Move Councillor Aldgate, seconded Councillor Chandler. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. No disclosures of interest. Do any of the councillors have disclosures of interest? No, nil disclosures of interest. Item number 1.
Could I just put something to you, Mr. Mayor, before the meeting starts? It was too late. I was too late. I didn't realise that it had happened, but the council might like to acknowledge the passing of Mr. Brian Simons. Brian Simons, as some older councillors will remember, was a serving member of the council. And from memory, he was a very well-respected gentleman. And I thought the council might like, he passed away on, I think it was the 17th of June. I'm just thinking the council might like to express their condolences and send some notification to the family.
I'm sure they would. You'd like to move that, Councillor Aldgate?
I would like to move it if I could.
Seconded, Councillor Page. Would you like any councillors like to, some of the councillors that may remember the councillor? Councillor Brown?
Yes, I'd certainly support those comments. I had dealings with Councillor Simon's, not on council. I think he didn't get back in the year that I came onto council, but I certainly knew him, and I certainly agree with you that he was, very highly respected, and ran a very reputable business and very useful business in town, his jewellery business. And I agree that it would be very appropriate to send a message to his family.
Thank you. No other councillors?
Just one other further, Mayor Kennedy had said, I also would commend the recommendation to send correspondence to the family. It wasn't just the family, it wasn't just Brian involved in the Broken Hill community. It's his whole family. It's his sons and also his daughter-in-law now, who really looks after us, Shorty O'Neill Village. So I think it'd be very, very fitting that we do send something to the family in relation to his contribution to Broken Hill.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank. Mayoral minute item number 1 is the mayoral minute New South Wales waste levy. The mayoral minute be received that council supports the net waste regional response to the review of the New South Wales waste levy issue paper in its entirety, and endorses council's submission in support of net waste submission. The council, as a member of New South Wales Net Waste Council, strongly and completely oppose any change in the waste levy, and that will extend the regional levy around area to include any of the 25 net waste councils. That if the New South Wales EPA levy applied to Broken Hill Council, it would be highly detrimental to waste management and create significant illegal dumping, and simply lead to community angst and resentment against both local government and the New South Wales state government. The council write to the Minister for Energy and Climate Change, Minister for Environment and Heritage, the Honourable Penny Sharp MLC, the Shadow Minister of the Environment, Kelly Sloan MP, and local member for Barwon, Mr Roy Butler, opposing any expansion of the waste levy boundaries as outlined above. Do we have a seconder for that? Second, Councillor Allgate. This is a very important to Broken Hill. To give people some of the examples, the EPA waste levy has demonstrably failed to meet landfill diversion targets set by the New South Wales state government. So where it has been introduced, it's been a failure. It stated that, I think it was in the submission from LG New South Wales, that stated that recovery had gone up to 67%, hardly worth the cost to the community that it's incurred, $900 million to date. Under the waste levy, there's been insufficient investment and promotion of recycling infrastructure that provide genuine alternatives to landfill. As a result, whilst there's been some success in easy recycled materials, C&D waste, the levy has overall increased the cost of waste management in centralised illegal dumping and rogue operators. So what's tended to happen is it's allowed people to make money out of ratepayers all across the states. We all have seen documentaries where plastics were sent over to China to pollute other countries, Singapore. As soon as they stop taking that waste, we now are in a position where landfill, you're paying for the waste levy and it's still going to landfill. Over $500 million each year is collected from the waste levy and diverted away from waste programs into New South Wales government's consolidated revenues. The loss of revenue from waste industries occurs at the time when there is critical lack of waste infrastructure, inefficient alternatives to landfilling. The levy applied to net waste councils will be nothing more than a cost-shifting exercise that will place additional financial burden on regional communities. The waste levy will act as no more than an additional tax with zero benefit to our communities. The EPA should focus on higher order waste hierarchy principles as set out in the Net Waste Avoidance and Resource Recovery Act, rather than simply applying a blunt instrument like the levy to disincentivise landfill. Landfill diversion must start with the product manufacturer, product stewardship, and the following the principles of circular economy. These should be the priorities of the state and federal government rather than the end pipeline solution of pushing waste problems down to councils and communities who least can afford the imposition of a levy. New South Net Waste Councils already price their landfills to represent the cost of the current and future community, including recycling. Councils are acutely aware of the perverse impacts from the cost of waste disposal and must balance landfill price with accessibility to illegal dumping opportunities. Net Waste Councils have already demonstrated their commitment to landfill diversion through extensive recycling and education programs. 40% of Net Waste Council operating curbside go services. The levy will produce an illegal dumping haven with irresponsible offenders targeting unstaffed and unlicensed landfill due to increased gate fees. We all know in Broken Hill, if you took a trailer out the dump with a ton of waste on it, it would cost you $0 from council if you had your voucher. When this is applied, and make no doubt about it, they're talking about applying it and then expanding the regional waste levy from $97 to make it consistent across the state, which means that we'll be all paying $170 per tonne. So that same trailer load of waste that would be free in Broken Hill will cost us $170 to dump it in Broken Hill. An even more concerning statistic that people might want to know is that this council voted not that long ago to encourage development in Broken Hill and to encourage people to buy derelict houses, remove those derelict houses, and we will charge no fee at the dump. So you're looking at probably a $12,000 reduction on that waste. Now, if the levy comes in, which is over 4 times what we charge, you're looking at $48,000 to clear a block. Now, we know from experience, there's no way that someone's going to pay $48,000 a block, and at no way would we have them charge $48,000 and then not collect what we need to run our facilities. So you're looking up to $60,000 to clear a block of land of a house if this comes in. This will stop development in Broken Hill. It is one of the worst things that had ever been suggested for regional New South Wales. Councils in regional New South Wales already face significant challenge allocating new human resources with appropriate skills to existing operations. An imposition of a state levy with associated reconciliation and reporting is beyond the capacity of most councils and demonstrates the lack of real understanding of regional economic and demographic capacities. We're flat out getting employing people now. Expansion of the levy boundaries is fundamentally breaking all goodwill and trust built between the Net Waste member councils, working collaboratively with the state government on agreed common ground project initiatives that works towards enhancing resource recovery and waste diversion from landfill. Obviously, the state government needs to be reminded that Net Waste was a pilot regional waste group originally established on the base principle that all member councils would work collaboratively forward, meeting state-based waste diversion objectives. On the premise of not imposing a waste levy to our local government areas, as we are already disadvantaged by access to markets, geographic isolation to industry and service providers, and prosperity for illegal disposal in vast areas of our jurisdiction. It is imperative that Net Waste Council stand united against the waste levy. Do we have that? Councillor Allgate, you second it. You'd like to speak?
I'd just follow up from what you've said, Mr. Mayor, and that is that it's pretty obvious that the government is out of touch with the real world. I mean, if you look at what some of the low-income families, the struggle they have already with the cost of utilities, food, fuel, and all the rest of it, to even at the lowest level, it would mean a $400 per ratepayer. and up to $700 per ratepayer. And there's nothing to say that it's going to stay at that level. It'll be CPI indexed to start with. And when you read the issues paper, the expansion of boundaries is clearly what they're after. They want to pick up every regional council in New South Wales. There's no doubt about that. And we're lucky that we're in with 20, I think it's 28 other councils with net waste. And as far as I'm concerned, we've got to fight tooth and nail to make sure this doesn't come to fruition. I mean, if you put yourself in the position of a single homeowner pensioner, and you've got to meet all these, you've got to meet the normal costs. I know pensioners that have had this single pensioners who own a home, and through no fault of their own, in good areas in town, in Cummins and Wyman, where the rates are quite high, where they've had to sell their car because they can't afford the registration, the insurance, and the cost of running it. To put another $400 and up to $700 on it is just crazy. I think it's an insult to the community. It really shows that the Labor government has no understanding of the pressures that people are just going through at the moment. Okay, it's okay for certain levels within all societies. Those that are at the upper end, it's fine. But in Broken Hill, most of us are down around the middle or lower end, and it'll be an imposition that just won't work. It'll send people broke, and it'll result in a debt to the council in unpaid rates.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I have to say I agree with all the sentiments that you've included in the recommendation. I think it might be an idea to add the Treasurer and the Finance Minister to the list of ministers, because unfortunately this is more of a money grab than an environmental or a measure that will actually improve the environment, I believe. And Councillor Turley will be able to tell you better than I that this has been a campaign by New South Wales councils over a number of years. The fact that the waste levy has just gone into general revenue and hasn't been used for constructive environmental purposes. So, you know, the amount of levy really it's hugely important for us here, but in the scheme of things and the sum of the New South Wales budget, it's absolutely a drop in the bucket. So they can't be doing it to increase their revenue. It's not much, no benefit to them in terms of the actual amount. Huge disadvantage to us. And I agree we should be fighting this. I understand from Councillor Turley that local government New South Wales, and I think she has some included a link to that submission. You referred to it yourself, that local government New South Wales, the Board of Local Government New South Wales has energetically opposed this and will continue to oppose it. You might be aware that this last weekend, again, Councillor Turley and I had the opportunity to meet a number of ministers in Sydney, and I certainly did, when I had the opportunity, say that this is ridiculous. And I have to say most of them, weren't aware. The ones I couldn't speak to the Treasurer, unfortunately. I tried my best to catch his eye, but I couldn't quite make it, that they weren't aware of it. They said that, follow it up and look into it. So I hope that the fight's not over yet. And I think, I agree, we do have to go at it absolutely as strongly as we can, because it won't do us any good, won't do our landfill any good, and it won't really benefit the government all that much.
Councillors? Councillor Turley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And can I commend you on an excellent mayoral minute, which really articulated the biggest issue. And I think for all of us, the fact that the government, in our mind, finally recognised as a problem, but we're certainly fighting. We should, all our councils across central New South Wales, fight the fact that they could expand the levy to affect us. For all that, Net Waste has always been great advocates. And, you know, when you think about the reason why we paid levies and externally was that to look at the circular economy, to look at how we reduce the landfill, to look at how we invest in recycling, but there's none of that. We can't see any of that. So increasing greater levies is just really catching money for the government. So congratulations, excellent mayoral minute, and happy to support.
That's good. So I will add the other ministers, but I also think that we all, at a number 4, we need to actually gain the support of the local government New South Wales to put a submission in similar to ours. As people that have taken the time to read that submission, the submission was on recommendations 10 and 11. We reiterate, but if it is brought in, that resources be put into those councils. That's not strong enough wording from LG New South Wales to let the state government know exactly how crucial this is to member councils. The mayoral minute that's written here is what should be put in the submission from LG New South Wales. The submissions are still open. LG New South Wales can and should add to their submission in a much more forceful manner than a paragraph that states, we reiterate, we do not support a boundary expansion, but if it is brought in, resources be given to those councils that are forced to be put into it. That's not a good enough rebuttal of obviously a strong push by, I would suggest, probably not the state government itself, more likely bureaucracy within the state government, because I also have spoken to a couple of ministers about it who knew nothing about it either, who said that it wasn't good enough. Now, if we are going to fight this and we are going to be united, then we need to be united with strength, with submissions that don't go along with what's written in their paper, which is, all right, if you don't agree with it, what can we do so we can introduce it anyway? We don't want it. There's nothing they can do that will make it beneficial to every council outside of the current waste levy area. As was stated in the LG New South Wales submission, they haven't even done a reasonable job of the councils that are actually within the waste levy area. So until they get that under control, don't be expanding it into our areas. For example, in Sydney, land is worth up to $3,000 to $5,000 a square metre. We're about $13 a square metre out in our areas. So for them, of course, it's good if they can save a square metre of land at $170. That's why the waste levies can work in areas where land is of a premium and costs a lot of money. Out here, we have the advantage of cheap land, so we should also have the advantage of enough space to remove our rubbish at a reasonable cost so our pensioners don't pay. So I will add a number 4, if the seconder is happy to accept it, that we write to LG New South Wales asking that they support our submission and the submission of the Net Waste councils.
Be happy to support that.
Can I just ask a question? I think later in this meeting, we'll be considering motions to the local government conference. So
Yeah. It's just that the
I think that would
submissions
be a-
close when?
maybe a late
Oh,
motion,
they've closed, they take late ones, so don't.
a late motion if it's an.
But they
urgent-
won't
it's an
take-
urgency motion because this.
No,
is a
I'm talking
written
about,
consent.
we need LG New South Wales to change their submission
Well,
virtually straight away because they will accept submissions to the issue paper in the next few days or week. They won't accept it after the LG New South Wales conference in October.
Still might be about idea to have it. as
Oh, I
a,
think we,
Yeah.
without a doubt, we put it in there,
So you
councillor
can,
Brown.
you
Yeah.
know, debate it openly.
Without a doubt.
If, Mr Mayor, if the general manager is able to send it to our CEO and myself tomorrow, we'll review and make sure is put in there. I'm sure though that because we actually hosted forums for Net Waste and council, so I'll go back and read it. But I mean, we're on the same page, so why not include it? If
I-
it's not already there, but I thought that reiterating was the last section, so I'll check it.
I thank you, councillor Turley.
Mr Mayor.
Yes,
um,
councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I just want to add to this debacle as well, that certainly looks like it's formulated by a bunch of people that sit high above North Sydney with lovely Sydney Harbour views and aren't trying to run a great regional city like we are. But one thing that has to be noted, and this is quick estimate or quick calculations, is businesses will also be affected. And I just use my own example. At the business, the waste charges would go from $1,150 a month up to about $12,000 to $14,000 a month, just off some quick calculations. I have got the documents that will be affecting business. I will review them and get an exact figure. But figures like that will start costing jobs in the local community. So it's not only our pensioners that are missing out or will miss out on stuff or have to sell their cars, et cetera, to make ends meet. It's also our working age people that will also suffer when their jobs disappear. Because I can tell you now, at $14,000 a month, that kind of increase will cost jobs. It's as simple as that. And it's about time Sydney wakes up to realities of living in regional Australia and get the other side of the Blue Mountains and actually have a look of how difficult things can be in the regions. And there's been plenty of debates during the Works Committee that I chair, especially between myself and Councillor Page, around making Broken Hill a recycling centre, a mecca for recycling. But there seems to be the money goes in this consolidated state revenue and it's never seen again.
Thank you, councillor Boland. Councillor Gallagher.
Yeah, it's just one thing. I've spoken to the councils of the Western Division, a number of mayors today in relation to another matter, which I'd like to bring up probably after we vote on this one, if your indulgence. And they fully support our motion and fully support your mayoral minute. I discussed it, not at length, but I discussed what was going on. And they're for the suggestion of what they're doing in the state government in relation to tax levy. So you've got their full support.
Thank you, councillor Gallagher. All those in favour? Thank you, everyone. A very important motion that become a resolution. We need to continue to fight this because, as councillor Boland just said, it's not just it will affect everyone in Broken Hill. Businesses could get to the point where they're no longer financial. Councillor Gallagher.
Just with your indulgence, Mayor Kennedy, I was going to mention it at a later time, but it could be a time with your permission allowed me to speak in relation to another ludicrous levy or tax being placed on all of New South Wales in relation to the death tax, interment and death. I've been informed by a reliable source and I spoke to the general manager around that and he has confirmed it, that there's a tax going to be placed upon all interments and burials of $200 roughly on every person that is interred or gets cremated in the state of New South Wales. I believe that is ludicrous. There is two things most definitely in this world, is death and taxes. And it appears to me we're going to get charged twice. So I believe that the state government needs to really look at itself in relation to that tax. What we're talking about now, we're talking about the waste earlier, now $200 tax on every person that gets interned, cremated or placed in a cemetery. It's ludicrous. If it went to the local council area in relation to beautifying the cemetery, I don't think many people would complain too much. But people are passing away and it's ludicrous what they're doing at the present stage. Just
Would you like to move a motions of urgency? We can deal with it after the mayoral minutes. So
that would
if
be
you'd like
good,
to move
Mayor
a
Kennedy.
motion
I'm
of
sorry,
urgency.
I bring it up now, but it's just very important. And it's
Moved.
been playing up on
Councillor
the mind all
Gallagher,
day.
seconded. Councillor Allgate, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. We'll deal with the mayoral minutes and then we will deal with your motion of urgency. Mayoral minute number 2 is support for the Silverlea Early Childhood Service. That Merrill Minute number 1224 dated July 30, 2024 be received. Number 2, that council provide an update on Silverlea's situation to the ministers listed in the Merrill Minute and request information on all current or upcoming government incentive programs to encourage regional relocation and any current or upcoming government funding streams that could potentially help alleviate the issues being faced by Silverlea. Do we have a seconder for that? Seconder, Councillor Gallagher. Look, we did meet with representatives of Silverlea. They provide a early child care service as well as NDIS. They are having real trouble attracting early childhood educators, as well as other staff to keep that facility running. They have a waiting list of over 50 children. So this is another important one. We can't afford to allow these organisations to close down. So as a council, we need to continue to promote with the state and federal government of how important this is, just so people do understand how hard it is to attract. And I'm sure Councillor Gallagher, when he gets his chance to speak, the visa program now includes Wollongong and Newcastle as regional centres. I don't know how they expect places like Broken Hill, 1,100 k's from Sydney, can compete with Newcastle and Wollongong. Wollongong's about 70 kilometres from Sydney and is now virtually part of Sydney, but it's considered regional Australia. If we don't do something about this, it's going to become more and more difficult to keep Broken Hill a livable city. Councillor Gallagher?
Yes, I echo your comments there, Mayor Kennedy, in relation to that. It's also seems to be there now, New South Wales and Newcastle, Sydney and Wollongong. With the Silverlea Early Intervention Centre, it's got the early childcare and the NDIS. It's most important that we keep that facility open to assist our people and to assist the general public in relation to their work. It gives a person the reasons to go to work. It gives a person the reason to actually be part of the community again. And I'll echo your comments there in relation. We must need to speak to the state and federal government and let them know how important that facility is for the Broken Hill community.
Councillor Turley?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I also wonder about training programs. I mean, part of the issue is how do we actually generate our own workforce within Broken Hill, and how do we actually, apart from our, of course, excellent country university, some of our TAFE courses and other areas to make sure that assistance in education and other services are there. So I'm just kind of wondering what else is it that we can do to help advocate and to help support that sort of training pipeline for local workers.
Yep, look, completely understand. It is back at TAFE College, so the certificate 4s that allow early childhood education is available. One of the difficult things with it is the lower pay for those educators as opposed to even helpers within the school system themselves. So you're much better off being a helper at a school than you are being an early childhood educator. So we have spoken to a number of providers of childcare and have spoken about and did all we could to ensure that that was reintroduced into technical colleges in Broken Hill, and did also bring it up with the other colleges because it is important. But it's not going to be a short fix anyway. At the moment, they're talking a matter of weeks to get someone, or their services will be further reduced. Councillor Page?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in regard to the schools do supply now training in this issue in the final part of their schooling. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, but the biggest problem we have at the moment are our politicians, because federally they don't put so many guidelines on anything that's about to happen It's got to change because our young kids need jobs and the politicians are our biggest problem.
Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3, mayoral minute number 3, support for regional airlines. The mayoral minute number 1324 dated July 31, 2024 be received. The council write to the Prime Minister, Federal Minister for Transport, the Honourable Catherine King, the Federal Member for Parks, the Honourable Mark Fulton MP, and the State Member for Barwon, Mr Roy Butler, requesting further support be given to all regional airlines to ensure they maintain access through operating regional routes and from rural and remote locations, encouraging competition and therefore allowing more reasonable and fairer prices for airfares for our residents, and that council reinforce the significant role Rex plays within the Broken Hill community, providing a vital health link to Adelaide for medical staff as well as patients for life-saving treatment. Seconded, Councillor Boland. Regional aviation is essential for many rural and remote communities across Australia, including Broken Hill. Rex Airlines has been a key part of our regional transport network, providing crucial connections for residents, businesses and visitors. These services are more than just convenient, they are vital for social and economic well-being, health and development of our region. Regional aviation significantly boosts local economies by making business travel, tourism, health-related travel and the transport of goods and services possible. The connections provided by regional airlines allows local businesses to reach wider markets, promoting economic growth and creating jobs. Additionally, air services help residents stay connected with family and friends, access essential services like healthcare and education, and participate in cultural and social activities. For many people, especially those with limited mobility or no other transport options, air travel is a crucial link to the broader community. Moreover, regional airlines are crucial for emergency responses and health services, transporting medical staff, patients and essential supplies. Reliable air services are necessary for delivering timely emergency and healthcare related services in rural and remote areas. However, the aviation industry has faced significant challenges, especially due to the COVID-19 pandemic, rise in operation costs, staff shortages and fluctuating demand. Without ongoing support, regional routes may become financially unsustainable, leading to reduced services or cancellations, which would severely impact regional communities. Given the recent announcement and the vital importance of regional aviation to our communities, I urge the federal government to continue to provide financial support. It's essential to maintain and enhance financial assistance programs for regional airlines to ensure these routes remain sustainable. Measures that, like subsidies, grants and tax incentives, should be considered to reduce operating costs and encourage investment in regional aviation. Additionally, it is crucial to ensure that all regional communities have fair access to air service, recognising the unique challenges and needs of rural and remote areas. We are different from our metropolitan counterparts who have plenty of competition. Promoting collaboration between federal, state and local governments as well as industry stakeholders is also important. This cooperation will help develop long-term strategies for the growth and resilience of regional aviation, investing in the development of maintenance of regional airport infrastructure to improve safety, efficiency and capacity. Any other speakers? Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Yes, Rex is vitally important to regional areas. As a long time flyer on Rex, and I'm regularly on them, and it reminds me of their service. I've actually got a Rex pen that the cabin crew kindly gave to me when I was flying, and I forgot my pen, and she noticed I was trying to write notes on a mobile phone. So their service has always been top quality, and I wrote a quick article or a quick blurb about them today, and I used the statement, we always hear too big to fail when we're dealing with business failures. Well, I think in the Rex situation, it's too important to fail. It's too important for regional communities. We know Rex is the lifeblood to many regional communities, particularly Broken Hill. They're the only connection to Adelaide. We have Qantas on the Sydney route, but ultimately I think that's 4 days a week now. Rex flies the 7. I did get 5, was that Councillor Gallagher? 5 days a week. But Rex is there the other days. You want to fly Saturday, Rex is the only one. And we know people use them for doctor's appointments, MRI scans, cancer treatment, the like, and also connect with family. There's going to be lots of time after this is dealt with to work out why Rex failed. But right now, we need to be focused on regional communities, the people that live in regional communities. And of course, we can't forget the wonderful employees that work for Rex that have always provided wonderful service to regional customers. Like a lot of things in the region, we get to know our cabin crew. I could name several pilots, I could name several first officers, I could name several cabin crew. You're not getting that on the big airlines. I think it's good that Rex is back to their traditional motto of the heart is in the regions or something along those lines. So as I finished my blurb today, long may Rex fly and long may they serve regional people and all our needs.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Boland. Very well said. Councillor Turley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wondered if we could also include the state ministers, including the Minister for Western New South Wales, and I'm not sure the Transport Minister is John Graham. I'm just not sure around that.
Happy to add those.
Yeah,
Councillor Turley.
I really have great concerns about when the dust settles and Rex looks at their regional routes, what they'll actually do if they, have to make a decision about what is more profitable over others. Will they reduce those regional areas? I know that Broken Hill has a long history with Rex, and for all that, it is critical, particularly for all our Adelaide connection. And I think Councillor Boland said it well in terms of health and accessing medical treatment. It is just, you just have to go out to the airport and you see that Adelaide flight. It's not a tourism flight. It's particularly probably 70% would be people accessing services in Adelaide that they cannot access in Broken Hill. Further to that, as we develop Hydrostore and you look at all the other developments happening around our community, our other mining sites being developed, we know that the workforce is critical and the skill base to enter our community. If we do not maintain this flight service, if we're one that has to be reduced, we've seen the Adelaide route has already been reduced over the last couple of years, then that is again going to be very detrimental to our economic development. So for all that, absolutely happy to support this motion, and also wonder if that we should also include the Prime Minister. He has taken a particular interest in this, as all that we have read.
That is, the Prime Minister's already included.
I better get those new glasses out, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I, like you, Councillor Turley, especially when the Prime Minister come out so vocally in support of Rex Airlines. Very important that he understands from a council just how important it is by writing directly to him. So that's already there. So thank you. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We have the urgent item. Would you like to move your motion, Councillor Gallagher?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy, unfortunately I haven't written it down, but it's just been informed today or yesterday in relation to it, that the Broken Hill City Council sent correspondence to the Premier, Deputy Premier, Leader of the Opposition, Member for Bowen, strenuously oppose the levy placed upon interments at local council facilities, cemeteries.
Seconded, Councillor Turley. Speak to it, Councillor Gallagher.
Yes, Mayor Kennedy, thank you very much for the,
Oh, it's,
sorry.
we have to have another vote. Oh, yeah. No, it's all right. Sorry, I thought we were going with the original ones. Go,
No, thank
Councillor
you very
Gallagher,
much.
sorry.
No, as I've been informed, reliable source, that the state government's putting a tax, and I call it a tax, on interments for burials and burials and also promotions in the local areas. It's ludicrous that the state government just puts a tax all of a sudden upon burials. It is most stressful, and it's most financially stressful, and it's emotionally stressful for the community to put a loved one at that time. And needlessly to put a tax on that, I think it's just a money grabbing idea by the government, whether it was this government of the day or a government of the future, whoever else done it. It's absolutely ludicrous, and it's disgusting. They put that upon the community of all communities. As I said before, if the tax went to the local government area to beautify the cemetery, I don't think people would really object too much in relation to that. But it's not. It is just a tax upon a tax. And so there's two things in life and taxes, and they're doing it both. So I think it's ludicrous that the state government at the present stage are doing this, and I strenuously oppose it. I've also spoke to, again, a number of mayors in the Western Division of New South Wales, and they also are going to do the same thing, oppose this levy to the state government. Thank you.
Councillor Turley.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Can we include Minister Steve Camper, who's the Minister for Crown Land, who's responsible for this particular levy, and I would call it a tax. Let's be very clear. This is actually targeting funds to pay for their regulator. Now, I know that the government's inherited, when they came into an absolute black hole, the incredible debt that they inherited. But this is one area that should be actually looked at. And I'm just shocked when we read that this was announced. And on behalf of all councils, I wrote to the minister straight away and said, this is, we oppose this. And I know that we'll be united. So I congratulate Councillor Gallagher on bringing the motion forward to council. But again, we shouldn't have to, everybody who sadly has to bury one of their family members shouldn't have to prop up a state regulator while they're doing it.
Thank you. Councillor Allgate. I know it's one of your passions.
I just, support everything that's been said, Mr. Mayor. There's not much more I can say. As Councillor Gallagher said, it's just a grab for money. And once again, it just shows how out of touch government is, and we've got to take a stand. The cost of dying now is incredibly high, and it's very few people plan for it, and often people can't get buried because of the costs involved. And I know people personally that have been in that situation. I mean, you probably need at a minimum $8,000 to be buried now. This is just another $200 odd on top of it. But once they have a levy, once the levy is set, it won't stay at that level. It'll improve. It'll be either matched to tied to the CPI each year, or revised on an annual basis, and it'll only grow. We've got to make sure that it doesn't get up, and we've got to remind the politicians that they're dealing with people's lives, but they're really putting the screws on people that there is no need at all. If they can't fix their own business, they're spending money like it's going out of water. It's just money being expended unbelievably, money that the state hasn't got. It's all borrowed, and now they're trying to patch up little holes, and it's just obscene to place another burden on top of those that are already grieving and struggling to make ends meet. It's embarrassing.
It is. I agree. Are you happy to accept the ad of Minister Camper and the Steve from Western Division, the member from Western Division?
Steve Lyons here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any extra money when people are struggling with the fact that they've just lost someone they love, is a bit of a disgrace, to say the least. As a council, we try to keep costs down as much as possible. We never go above CPI. We keep it as low as possible. It barely covers the costs of the work that needs to be done. And then for $200 or $160 odd dollars to be added to that burial is just beyond belief. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We have nil notices of the motion, nil rescission motions. We go to reports from delegates. We have a report from Councillor Allgate's attendance at the National General Assembly. Councillor Allgate, you'd like to move that and speak to it?
Just move it.
Move. Councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Boland, Councillor Allgate.
I just, as I said, I wish to thank the council for the opportunity of attending. I don't normally go to conferences, but for this one I was keen to go, having never been to it. It was a good conference. It's a bit of an eye-opener on occasions in terms of some of the things that are put forward, but it gives you a good idea of how local government as a group generally, not always, but generally tend to think alike. And we all suffer the same problems. We all have the same, we all face the same daily problems, and particularly in terms of cost of living, cost shifting from the government to councils or to local governments. And I just think it was a really good opportunity to see what lots of other councils from all over the country had to say, and whilst they were quite diverse in their responses to some of the matters put forward, in general the thrust was that local government as a whole is suffering the same problems year in, year out. And I, along with the other Broken Hill councillors that were there, I think enjoyed it. There were a wide range of topics. There was something like 1,000 people, I think, on the final day in the auditorium or the theatrette of the centre, the venue. The conference was run extremely well. The catering was great. The exhibitions were fine. You'd be hard pressed to criticise it, and I'm glad that I went, and I thank the council for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Just on that one, what is always very clear though is the divide between regional councils and metropolitan councils, and what metropolitan councils bring up at these conferences don't really align greatly with what happens out here in the real world. What was brought up at that conference is that a house that was built in 2020, a 4-bedroom house built on average in Sydney, was $360,000. It is now $800,000 for the exact same house because of labour. Regulations is a big cost, and a lot of those regulations are regulations that have been brought in and pushed by metropolitan councils, and a number of them were moved during this conference to add extra costs to build. So it is important that regional councils do go to these, and they are getting a bigger voice, and they're actually stopping a lot of these motions that are put by metropolitan councils who live in sometimes only 1 and 2 bedroom places, little flats, when out here we live in houses. So when they put these things, and that sounds great for Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, they can have great effect on us. So I appreciate that you do go over and have your say. Councillor Brown, are you wanted to speak?
If I may,
Yeah.
Councillor Allgate's finished. I don't have a written report. I do apologise. I've made some notes and I left them at home. So, but I won't say too much because, at this time of the night, we're normally wrapping up the meeting. We haven't even got on to the first lot of reports. So I'll be very quick. One interesting part of the last year's conference and this one is the Australian council local government meeting on the last day, on the Friday, and that was a really good opportunity. They had a number of the Prime Minister was there and a number of ministers were there, and they were, willing to take questions. Most of them were, so I think that was very good. And they also treated us to a very nice dinner at Parliament House, so that was also very, very good. As usual, they have some interesting speakers. I'm always interested in the future watchers, if you like, and they had I thought a couple of interesting ones with made some interesting comments about sort of town planning and making more livable communities. And just some of the things that I remember. One of the two, and I can't remember which one, emphasised the importance of trees in a community, that you must have trees. Not any particular sort of trees, but trees. And I have an idea that was the speaker who was at one time the Lord Mayor of Adelaide. He was accidentally the Lord Mayor of Adelaide, and I think he was also responsible for a lot of the street art there. I think those, and I assume he meant by that, he meant those statues. I don't go to Adelaide very often, but those statues along, what was it, Anzac?
All the way along the
well,
highway.
Oh, it could have been the mall, the ones in the mall anyway, the street art in Adelaide. And he was, I thought, quite stimulating. I think he was also the one who said cities shouldn't be built for cars, they should be built for people, which is also important. One of the speakers emphasised the importance of festivals and celebrations for every community really, and I think that's a very healthy thing that we need to keep in mind, because it's an economic value, but it's also a great way to keep communities together. And I think at the festivals and get-togethers that we have, the Christmas and what we do with Christmas decorations and encouraging people, and all the other festivals we have, I think, do add to the health of our community. So I'll probably leave it there. I mean, I do have another just a couple of comments to make about the other conference I attended during the month as well. But
we'll close off
like-
on this one.
yeah.
If you can give a verbal report on the Murray-Darling Basin. Councillor Page.
Mr. Mayor, can I just make comment? I've said this a million times, and it's fantastic that you took the councillors to Canberra with you. It's a learning cycle, and you make a lot of contacts. But in local government today, it's like Groundhog Day. We've been saying federally, people in the outback need the federal funding to be different to this large cities. They have huge amounts of money. Us in the outback, we virtually don't, we're not financially viable, and the funding, federal funding, needs to be rewritten. The funding now, the federal government give 10 times more in foreign aid than they do in local government, and it's got to change. And once they put the money into each state, the state government have a committee how they allocate that money. So the whole structure in regard to funding has to change. And the more we talk about it, I know I've brought it up a million times in this council, but it needs to be, all the people in the outback have to unite on this one issue, because we're suffering in the outback now, something terrible.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Just on that one. So at the dinner that Councillor Brown spoke about, I had the opportunity to sit with Minister Butler from the aged care. So I had 2 hours to speak to him about aged care in Broken Hill. He was very open to it. He's a Port Adelaide supporter, Magpie, so it's pretty easy. That's good for me. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Councillor Brown, you'd like to give a verbal report on your
yes, on the MDA, I did present a written report, but it was too late. I apologise, but I was just too late getting it in. It is on the hub, and I'm not sure whether it'll be in the business paper next month, but I wanted to say a couple of things because there will be a meeting, an MDA meeting of Region 4 here on the 13th of August. When we'll have a chance to talk about the conference and so on. The one thing I did want to highlight, and I think if the emails I sent on the train have all come through, there is one about the so-called Menindee solution, which came up at the conference, and one of the motions from one of the southern regions was to support this so-called Menindee solution, which would involve raising the banks of the Menindee of the lakes by 1 metre and handing the water over to the Commonwealth water holder. Now, I happened to speak to him at morning tea, and he said it would be quite unachievable, wouldn't be of any benefit to us. It's not for our benefit, it's for the benefit. It's because the southern irrigators, I think, you know, they're fearing the effect of buybacks and so on because the water that's got to come for the environment. But I'll leave it. I won't say anymore. It was an interesting conference. The materials on the hub, and you know, maybe on the business paper next month. But there will be an invitation to all councillors to. I'm not sure at the moment either to come to the meeting or to come in here. I asked Councillor Jason Modica, who's a former mayor of Mildura Council, who's has informed himself very well about water issues, and he is the previous chair of Region 4. If he would come up, you know, whether he's a delegate or not, and maybe just speak to interested councillors about these water issues. I think it's really important, particularly if things like, you know, the Menindee project that would definitely affect Broken Hill. That would have huge impacts on, you know, the amenity of the lakes and all kinds of things. So he will be available, and that Menindee solution will be available to read on the hub in the meantime.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Are you happy to move that your verbal report be accepted? Seconded, Councillor Page. Councillor Page.
In regard to the extra metre on the banks, they only put, when they say the lake's full, it's only to about 60% full. They won't fill it up. So they give lots of excuses why they won't fill it. How they can say something's full when it's 60% full, and now to put another metre on top, they won't go any more than 60% full. The whole system since John Howard introduced it's been corrupt, dishonest, and I can't see it changing in the future.
No, look, I think they need to probably get their. I think they don't have their facts very right. So just the lakes hold 1,600 gigalitres. In surcharge, they hold 2,000 gigalitres. So in surcharge, that's an extra 400 gigalitres. What tends to happen there is there tends to be erosion of banks, erosion of river sides. So I don't know where they've got this idea that you could put a metre bank on there. You're looking at tens upon tens of millions of dollars to put a metre bank that as soon as the first flood comes down, it would wash the banks away. There has been talk in the past of desilting the creeks and that are within the lake system themselves. There is merit in that, but that also costs tens of millions of dollars, and it would actually increase the capacity of the lakes and also allow the residual pools to drain out of the lakes much more easy. I don't know if people were up there last time it was dried, but the creeks that feed into those lake beds are probably 8 and 10 metres deep. So they are completely silted up. So this is the problem with some of these things, and I'm glad you bring them up, Councillor Brown, because a lot of people bring these up without even really, some of these other areas bring these up without even really knowing or understanding the lake system itself. So thank you for going there and putting Broken Hill's position forward. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now we move on to reports from the committees. First one is the Works Committee. It is minutes of the Project Consultative Group Project Steering Group meeting held 16th of May. Moved Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Boland. Councillor Allgate.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. As I said at the last council meeting and at the committee meeting since then, this is probably the most informative report that the council produces in terms of what's actually happening in respect to capital works. And it tells not only the councillors, but we need to make sure it goes out to the community as a whole, because it tells all of us exactly what the council is doing in terms of capital works. And we're doing a hell of a lot. If you read through the report, it gives an indication of the timeframes, what we're doing, at what stage it's at, who's responsible, and so on. And I think it's a document that is important in terms of the overall council. It's the one report that clearly shows what council is doing in terms of its capital program. And our capital program is an extremely large one, millions and millions of dollars. And there's good work being done. If you look at the lighting at the tennis courts, the netball court, reconstruction, the library, there's so many different aspects to this report. It really gives a comprehensive rundown on where we are on each of the projects, and it needs to be publicised.
Yes, look, thank you to the managers involved in that. Just some of the things in there, Councillor Allgate, yes, they are really good. If you go and read through them, and you actually do see how much has been achieved. Page 1, Alma Oval, Norm Fox Oval, change room upgrades, about $1 million. Upgrades planned at the Memorial Oval, lighting, advertised. Upgrades at the tennis courts, O'Neill's, lighting in progress, just about complete. Queen Elizabeth Park, small dog breeding off-leash area. Great initiative that is, and accepted well by the community. The gateway sign that was finished. Stage 1 of the netball courts. Art gallery roof replacement. EP O'Neill Parks netball, temporary library archives, Duke of Cornwall Park, library and archives, as well as Banner Poles project, CBD redevelopment, wayfinding, Town Square redevelopment, Argent Street paving project, airport master plan, Warnock Street redevelopment, so the Warnock Street development is another great one that's probably been on council's radar since I was first elected to council in 1999. So to have achieved that really is outstanding. We have it, Councillor Turley.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to ask a question about the monument that's in the town square, and there's discussion around that. Just probably just to add to that, if we all remember, that was actually a BIC project with Eddie Butcher's project to place that monument in the town square. And I don't know if there was consideration about placing it over the Trades Hall as sort of recognition of all the work that he's done.
Yep. So the two places, if the Trades Hall does want it there, then that's where it'll go. If they don't want it there, then it'll be up to council's decision, of course. But the two areas that have been spoken about at the project consultative committee is either at the front of the Trades Hall or across the road adjacent to the Trades Hall. So it needs to reflect exactly what it was done for. Is there any update on that? No, just part of the project. So they're the two locations that were described. Do any councillors have any problem if it goes to the front of the Trades Hall or across the road from the Trades Hall?
Okay.
Councillor Brown?
I think it might, sort of block the view a bit of the building if it's in front of the
Well,
road. So
that's
I
why
think
we
it's
were
designed-
thinking across
Yeah,
the,
across the road.
Yeah.
I think, well, personally, it's.
well, it'll come
everyone's
back to
view is different,
councils.
but that-
It'll come back to councillors anyway, but they were the two positions, and exactly that thing councillor Brown was actually said about it blocking the building itself when some of the walkers go past there. So it was suggested perhaps across the road. But anyway, it'll be brought up again for sure when it goes to point of being moved. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2, minutes of the traffic committee, councillor Brown. Happy to move that?
Oh, yes. I think
Yeah,
so.
move councillor Brown, seconded. Councillor Boland, councillor Brown, you'd like to speak to that?
No, that was the meeting I
Yeah.
missed because I was at the Western Division. I
Yeah.
think-
Yeah, there is a few things in there. Council for correspondence visit was located at the shopping complex on Oxide Street between Wolferman Lane and Micah, asking for feedback regarding the request to convert a 1 hour parking space to a 15-minute parking space. So that was probably the only new thing within that report. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3 is the minutes of the Picton Sports Ground Community. Move councillor Gallagher,
Move that way.
seconded.
Second,
Councillor Allgate, councillor Gallagher.
No, Mayor Kennedy.
I suppose the important one there, councillor Gallagher, that you might want to speak a little bit on is Mr. Noel Hannigan, who received a volunteers report award for his 35 years of service, and as well as this committee or this council also acknowledge it. I don't know if you'd like to speak on it.
Yeah, he's a very, very well respected person in the Picton Oval community, especially at the Oval. He's always there with Paul. He's always got his heart in the right place, and it's really good to see that the Broken Hill City Council has recognised his work in that area.
Thank you. Councillor Turley.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say 35 years, what an achievement, but what passion for his community. And I know Mr. Hannigan well, and as he is celebrated for all his commitment, it was well deserved to be recognised at our volunteer awards.
It certainly was, and I thank him for his service and congratulate him on his achievement. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We move to Health and Building Committee. Item number 1 is proposed licence of 252 Argent Street. Do we have a mover for that?
I'll move that way.
Move councillor Gallagher, seconded. Councillor Boland, councillor Gallagher, you'd like to speak to that?
Yes, just briefly, Mayor Kennedy, it's great to see that it's got the licence for the area, was going on public display. They've got great plans for the museum, and as you mentioned earlier, has the police got intentions to putting some museum pieces in there? And the answer is yes. They've already got things underway, and they're working closely with the body now. So it's good to see that we're doing something for Argent Street, and it's going to be visited, and it's going to be something that people will come to Broken Hill soon.
Without a doubt. Look, I think it'll be a fabulous new exhibit in Broken Hill. What they've got planned there, once they do actually get it up to a standard they believe they can get it up to, it'll be one of our jewels in the town. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2, Broken Hill Lead Reference Group minutes of meeting held May 30. We have a mover for that. Councillor Brown, seconded. Councillor Allgate, councillor Brown, you'd like to speak to that?
Yes, actually, I didn't quite make that meeting. I was suffering from jet lag and slept.
I did notice you weren't there.
through. I know I wasn't there, so I'm not listed as an apology because I meant to go. A couple of interesting things there. The Lead Reference Group is planning to have a Teams meeting with representatives from Trail in Canada, and that's interesting because that's a town very similar in lots of ways to Broken Hill, except it's freezing rather than hot. You know, it's very cold in winter, but they've managed to reduce their average lead levels in children. So that they're
Below that.
lower
Yeah.
than the level of concern by, and they did large scale remediations, removing, quite a lot of the topsoil from the whole place.
Yeah.
And doing that. So that was a fairly radical way, but it has worked, and that's the interesting thing. So the intention isn't, it's taken quite a few months to get this far,
Yeah.
is to have conversations with those people and just see how they did it and how they dealt with community concern about it, because obviously it's something that takes, quite a bit of discussion. So that, I think, is an interesting thing to be aware of.
What was the size of that population, Councillor Brown?
I think from memory, reasonably close. In lots of ways, it's quite close, and I think its history is sort of similar, being established, for the purpose of the mine itself, and the company that was doing it. But I'll know more when we have that.
Well,
which I
that's
hope is
really
soon.
interesting and important, Councillor Brown. You remember when I know you would remember when we had the meeting with the Premier's department and explained how important it was to actually address the whole of the city, whether that be by vegetation cover or, as is stated there, because we can't be the only place in New South Wales that continues to have 90% of the children over the acceptable lead levels in the whole state. So that's a really important one, that we can use that information to try and get some of the funding we need to make sure that the children in Broken Hill and the rest of our population are as safe as everywhere else in New South Wales.
Yep, it will be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, very, very interesting. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3, the Friends of the Flora and Fauna of the Bush Rangers Community Committee meeting. Councillor Brown, Councillor Turley. Moved Councillor Turley, seconded Councillor Brown. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Turley?
Oh, no, just a very hardworking committee. They had quite a few working bees in the last 8 weeks. So it's always a pleasure to be one of their volunteer rangers out there.
A very good committee. Councillor Brown, you'd like to brag them up a bit? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We move to policy in general. Local government elections caretaker period. We have a mover for that. Councillor Boland, seconded Councillor Allgate. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. All written there. It's all set out in the Local Government Act. So that is the dates that the council's decision making goes into caretaker mode. So we're getting very close now.
Indeed. Councillor Turley.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just noticed that we don't see a lot of sort of promotion about the upcoming elections on our social media, and we're not running any workshops. The rest of the councils across the state have been running workshops. Are we going to do that?
I'm not sure if we're doing workshops, but it has been very quiet. There's no planned workshops.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the only workshops we're promoting is the online workshops, no in-person workshops.
Thank you, General Manager.
Is there any opportunity to consider in-person workshops?
What sort of workshops would you be after?
The
Councillor
ones that
Turley.
the ones that provide an education to people that are potentially thinking about running, that informs them around, what are the commitments, what are the committee structures, what are the areas of local government. Don't be surprised if you get elected, because here's some challenges or here's some opportunities. And for people to ask one-on-one, which is often the way people learn about what's it really like to be an elected member. Something like that.
Are you talking about in-house? In-house? Is there opportunity for one? We could certainly do an in-house one. I don't think as a council we want to pay potentially 20-odd thousand bringing people out here to explain to us what it needs when we have 10 people, well, 8 people in here at the moment that are councillors that could address most of the issues, and we have the staff who have been involved in council for a long time that would be more than capable of answering many of the questions. We also have Councillor Turley, who is the president of LG New South Wales. So I think we could probably arrange some sort of thing mid-August.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager and Mayor.
Before that, or Yeah, in the next week or two, because the registrations close on the 14th of August, so you probably want to have it before the 14th of August for people who are thinking about running, so perhaps in that week between the 5th of August and the 14th of August, somewhere in between there. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2, council meeting arrangement and Christmas shutdown period. Moved, councillor Allgate,
recommendation.
seconded,
Second, one.
councillor Gallagher, councillor Allgate.
Well, there's very little to say about it. It's a sensible way of organising the meetings around the election and Christmas,
Yep, I
And-
agree.
and just leave it at that.
Yep. Any other speaker? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3 is attendance at the Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference to be held in Tamworth. We have a mover for
Move
that.
way.
Moved, councillor Gallagher, was it?
Yep,
Yep,
I'll move that
councillor
way.
Gallagher, seconded councillor Allgate, councillor Gallagher.
No, it's well written. That's
Yes,
right who's supposed to be there, and it's good to see.
yeah,
But
so
who
it
are we
leaves it
going
leaves it open to who the next council wants to pick. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 4 is Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference to be held in Tamworth. Call for motions. I do notice that there was 3 motions that have been brought up in during the debate: the waste levy, cemetery tax, actually 4 regional airports and the funding for not particularly Rex in general, but regional airports to make sure that they remain that so that regulations don't put them out of business as far as security and that sort of thing goes. And also that it be redesigned how FAGS grants are distributed. So we're calling on the New South Wales government to ask lobby the federal government and our Australian local government to redesign how financial assistance grants are distributed. They're distributed a lot on population. Councillor Brown, you'd like to briefly speak on that?
Oh, yes, I thought you might have meant the GST. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about how that
We
is
can-
started. I think
we
you mean
can-
something different. Is
No,
that
yeah, I
right?
was talking about the financial
Yeah,
assistance grants.
financial
Councillor
assistance, yeah.
Page actually brought up that the financial assistance grants are calculated, but because of our population sizes in regional Australia, we don't get the what you'd consider a fair share, considering we have so much more to.
Yeah, it was brought up at the National General Assembly that,
Yeah.
most of us did attend. And that, councillor Page would be pleased to know that, the amount of the percentage of, the
Yeah.
government revenue that comes as the FAGS grants, there was a real push to get that increased to the 1%. So that was totally in line with councillor Page. At the moment, it's 0.52. Is that right? It's only gone up from
Yeah.
0.5. So it's way below. I
Doubling
think,
it.
but I do remember in previous years, it was said that we shouldn't be haggling over where the money goes, but we should be united in just asking for the absolute amount, the total amount of that to be increased. And then once we've got that 1%, then we can talk about dividing it more fairly. It just kind of maybe weakens the case a bit. There's just, if we want to get more money first, 5% of a million's not as much as 5% of 10 million, So you just got to get that total amount up.
Councillor Page.
Mr. Mayor, Joyce Wheatley came out to Broken Hill 25 years ago. She was the chair of that committee. And I argued with her and she said, Ron, I agree with everything you say. It's unfair. So the chair of that committee said it was unfair back then. It's still unfair today. If we don't get that changes in the outback, we're suffering bad enough now. Those changes have to be made.
I totally agree. So that were the things that were brought up during the meeting. So we'll look at when did that be? before the next council meeting. So we'll have them circulated and councillors can make comment on what we're thinking about sending off as a motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 5, volunteer management policy. We have a mover for that.
Move that way.
Moved councillor Boland, seconded councillor Brown. Councillor Boland, you'd like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. This is a very important policy to look after our volunteers, to look after council. There's some case studies there of where it's gone wrong in some other councils. So it's great that we're on the front foot. There's some case law there where I believe a volunteer actually passed due to something that happened while they were volunteering. So it's good to see that council's on the front foot. We're looking after our volunteers. We have over 144 volunteers, I believe, reading this report. So it's more than just ticking the boxes and making sure the policy is in place. This is an important policy to keep what I class some of the most important people in our community safe, which are volunteers.
You're right. Councillor Brown?
Oh, yes, Mr Mayor. I did send the general manager quite a list of comments about that, and I won't go into it now. Maybe they can be dealt with in the feedback when it comes back to council, whenever that is.
Anything of interest you'd like to bring up now, councillor Brown?
Oh, well, I don't have it in front of me. And I
Do you want to just jog
left my phone
councillor
at home.
Brown's
yeah, that
memory
they
on
were
some of them?
fairly random, not random comments, but as I went through, I jotted things down. I just felt some parts of it would be unworkable, and maybe it's not clear. It wasn't clear to me that the policy talked about a volunteer supervisor or a number of supervisors in each area. Now, I have had quite a bit of experience as a member of these committees. I'm not speaking as a councillor, but as a member of a 355 committee. And the committees that work are the ones where there's a good relationship and a close relationship between the committee and the council officer who's, dedicated to that committee. And if you don't have that, they don't work all that well. Either the committee develops a mistrust of council. It's hard to get things, they just don't seem to work. So I just wasn't clear. It wasn't clear to me whether it was talking about the volunteer supervisor, which was someone responsible for everything, or one for each committee. I don't know. There are a number of those, but I think it would probably take too long to go.
We'll just answer
through
a few
it.
now. You've taken the time to put it in, so we'll
Yeah.
go through a few of
Yes.
them. Councillor Brown?
Thank you through you, Mr Mayor, to councillor Brown. And thanks for sending through early, councillor Brown, so I could get the information for you. The volunteer supervisor, so there's no such position as a volunteer supervisor as a singular person. So it is referring to that designated person that will be available for each of those different volunteering groups or S355 asset committees. At this stage would be our strategic asset management coordinator or a delegated officer, and will attend those meetings. We've worded it as a supervisor just to keep it broad in case any of those positions change in the future. And they will be available for out of hour committee meetings, as well as that training if it
Okay.
does need to occur outside of normal business hours, that they'll be available. That is one of the parts that was a failure with the last S355 asset committees, which we identified as an improvement that will be formed in this volunteer management policy and framework, but as well as the revised S355 asset framework and committee policy that will come to the new council about how we can improve that relationship to make sure that person is available. And since we've had that position replaced over the last 12 to 18 months, I believe that relationship has improved in that area. So a couple of those concerns there, a couple of the other ones that you did raise, we'll take that back on and provide that as feedback, whether it's an amendment through the policy or bring it back to council for consideration for some of those larger, bigger ideas that you put forward.
One small thing is I wondered why the Art Gallery Advisory Group is mentioned and it's not called a committee and the other ones are. Why has that changed? It's always been the Art Gallery Advisory Committee. I wonder what happened.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, it is the Art Gallery Advisory Committee. We'll update the policy to reflect that. So the official name hasn't changed anywhere. It's just been something that's followed through the reports that'll be corrected. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, General Manager. Councillor Allgate.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I agree with what's been said. The problem is, I know the council has to meet its legislative requirements, and I understand that fully, particularly in respect to occupational health and safety. But the problem, there is a problem in the community in terms of if you want to volunteer your time on whatever 355 committee that interests you. I think we need to tread lightly when we tell the, the candidates that are interested in volunteering their time. We need to tread lightly in explaining what the responsibilities are, because we've been through the process of giving them a folder with the code of conduct, the occupational health requirements and the policy requirements and all the rest of it. And I know personally that a couple that I know just said, once they seen that, they said, no, we're out of here. We don't need that.
Yeah.
And it's hard enough to get volunteers now. It's many of our 355 committees haven't got a full complement, and it's very difficult to get volunteers as the older people die out. And like the Memorial Oval case, 35 years as a volunteer, very few people will put their, very few younger people will put their hands up for that. So I know we have to meet the regulations, and they're getting more and more onerous all the time, but we need to try and tread a bit more lightly, I think.
Councillor, just before I go to you, Councillor Brown, the General Manager just briefly respond that for you, Councillor Allgate.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. Completely agree, Councillor Allgate, and it was raised by the Chair of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee as well, around having that balancing act between having the volunteer management framework and the policy, and what's actually going to be achievable on our volunteers to ensure that you don't scare them away. So whilst we've got this policy and framework in place to obviously protect council's interests and protect council's officers as well, including councillors and staff in regards to those liabilities, and most importantly, our volunteers who are working within the areas of council. The next part of this step, which staff are currently preparing at the moment, is how we're actually going to implement these policies and putting in those working documents that you're actually going to use on a day-to-day basis. And that's where the reasonableness will come back into it in regards to what is a reasonable expectation on volunteers, depending on what role they're carrying out for council. If you're part of an S355 ASIC committee where you're looking at you're not going to be out there in a dangerous situation as such as you might be with the Living Desert opening and closing, then obviously there'll be different levels of requirements around training as well as what our expectations would be as well. So it's that balancing act to make sure that we can maintain the volunteers that we've got and hopefully be able to start to increase those numbers as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, General Manager. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, just to note that this Saturday, the Volunteer Expo is on at the Civic Centre at the same time as the tree giveaway. So I think the last I heard, there were 22 stalls booked there. So 22 of our volunteer groups will be there telling the public what they do, and maybe, taking details down for people who are interested. So
Excellent job.
might be something
Yeah.
that might have spent your Saturday morning.
Excellent job. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 6 is the investment report. Move, Councillor Boland.
Move that
Seconded.
way.
Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. As normal, it's a very strong, well-balanced report. Inflation came in a little bit below expectations, or right on expectations today. So the risk of an interest rate rise in August has decreased dramatically today. So we'll see what way it heads. They're now talking about interest rate decreases in February next year. I can't see that happening. but it'll be a very happy federal government that that interest rate, inflation has ticked a little bit on target there.
Any other speakers? Look, $33 million in our portfolio. That just shows you how much money is there to be spent on our infrastructure projects, just to go on from what you were talking about, Councillor Allgate. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number seven, temporary suspension of a portion of the Central Business District CBD alcohol-free zone for the Hill Festival. We
Move
have
the
Councillor
recommendation.
Allgate, seconded Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Allgate.
I'll just move the recommendation as written, Mr. Mayor. The council annually does go through this particular matter. We've subsidised the organisation, and to free up that particular parcel of land for the duration of the actual event is just, you know, an expected given. And I think it's a good thing that we make allowances and also support the organisation, because it brings a hell of a lot of people into town and good for the business.
Yeah, look, it's an event that's grown to be one of our big events. Councillor Gallagher.
It's good to see that too, that the moving of the alcohol-free zones will also assist in harm minimisation in relation to the service of alcohol. And it gives other areas that we looked at. So it's good to see that the council's on the front foot with that.
All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 8 is the minute of the Heritage Committee meeting. Councillor Turley, seconded Councillor Brown. Councillor Turley, you'd like to speak to that?
Sorry, I think it's pretty straightforward.
No worries. Councillor Brown? No. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 5, minutes of the Youth Advisory Committee held 14th of May. Moved Councillor Turley, seconded Councillor Allgate. Councillor Turley, you'd like to speak to that?
No, again, they're the minutes. They're pretty straightforward. Thank you.
They are straightforward, but it is an important committee that hopefully does grow over time.
Perhaps,
I
Mr.
do-
Mayor, yeah.
Yes, I'll go, Councillor
Yeah,
Turley.
I was going to say, I mean, one of the issues for the committee is around getting attendance from our representatives, and also about a lot of conversation about how do we engage our younger people. And so that is a challenge. And for all that, you know, I think for getting our attendance is probably a priority, because then we could probably, with all good brains around the table, think of ways of really increasing our participation of our younger people.
Yeah, look, it is an important committee. It's a committee that Councillor Turley and I were elected the first time round back in about 2000. We actually had some young people on the committee then, and it did work quite well. So I'd like to see it get back to that sort of input. And I suppose it's a matter of time before we can, only a matter of time, hopefully, before we can achieve that. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We move on to further reports. Item number 1 is the delivery program, including operational plan outcomes, final key performance indicator progress report for the period ended 30th of June 24. We move on. Councillor Boland, seconded. Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Just, I've had some issues reading this report. It's just back to front, but a quick flick of the laptop, I could read it this afternoon. Look, it's good to see 169 achieved projects. Would like to see some of that reduced, 19 off track. We know how difficult things have been lately, and sometimes it's just unfortunate that things go off track and through no fault of anyone involved, but it's great to see 164 items achieved there at 90%. So that's a really good result overall.
Yeah, look, it's always good to see reports that actually do show progress in the city. They're the things that you're judged on. So very good to see that. Any other, Councillor Allgate? You just got your microphone on.
Oh, sorry.
No, no. All those in favour? Declare it carried. Item number 2, Disability Inclusion Action Plan, Key Performance Indicators, Progressive Report. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Boland, Councillor Turley, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Again, another very important report. It's great to see 36 achieved items at an 82% completion. 8 off track. Again, sometimes it just is unavoidable, but this is a very, very, very important action plan, and plenty of community members have certainly gave me that feedback, and they're very acceptive and very happy that they've got a council that will listen to the disabled community and make actions to improve the life of everyone in the community, including our people with disabilities. So hopefully we see those off track come online shortly. As I said, in today's trading environment, and try and procure items, sometimes it's a bit difficult. But it's great to see all those items completed, and it's certainly the community feedback has been overwhelmingly positive for this report.
Look, this is one that, as the mayor, I'm quite proud of. I do hear regularly from different people in different groups. One of the things that was mentioned, our aged committee, that does have people, and that includes some of the inclusion, which, when it affects some of the elderly people, it also has the same sort of things for the disability inclusion action plan. So I'm proud of this, and many people are glowing of what council has done to have that inclusion. And I thank the managers involved in that, because it really has been an outstanding performance. Councillor Brown?
Just a question on the subject of disability access. I assume council will be able to do what it normally does for the council election and for the pre-poll thing. And I think it's really important to have the 15-minute parking signs there. They really work, because the ones that come with the electoral commission are just bits of cardboard that fall over all the time.
Yeah, I think that was brought up last time. We all
Yes,
acknowledged
I know
how
we do.
important that is, and so you can, so
I
that-
know.
that has been organised.
Yeah,
So
yes,
yes,
great. And
Good pick up,
ramps
Councillor
for
Brown.
the gutter, because people getting up on the gutter, we've all noticed that, those of us who've spent a long time at polling booths see people struggle all the time.
well,
just
we all
getting
end up
on the-
helping someone, don't we?
Well,
Just
yes,
about
we
every
do,
time
but it's
someone
really
handed out
difficult.
helps.
People
helped
can't
out.
find getting up the gutter really difficult.
Yeah, they do. Councillor Turley?
Just to say with that, can it be done the couple of days before pre-poll start though, and not sort of on the day pre-poll start? It starts on the Saturday this year, I understand. So if it could be put in place, that'd be great.
Yeah, the general manager will respond.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that will be done. We've met with the returning officer last week for the election and went through their requirements, and it's refreshing that we won't be asked on the day that it's opened this time round. So it'll be all installed and ready to go for electoral commission. Yes, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, general manager.
Can I-
Councillor
can I
Page?
Just ask a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Who's the returning officer?
Brian Stephan.
Oh, no, okay.
Thank you.
All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Action list, councillor Gallagher, that's your fave.
Yes, I'll move that way. On that, like red, as
Bit of red.
Councillor Boland said, there's a bit there, but I'll move it.
No worries, seconded. Councillor Allgate. Councillor Allgate, nothing to say on that? Any other councillor? All those in favour, carried unanimously. Questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. Do we have a mover for that?
Move that way.
Move councillor Gallagher, seconded. Councillor Boland, councillor Gallagher?
No, Mayor Kennedy.
No. Item number 2, questions taken on notice from the public forum. Do we have a mover for that?
That way.
Move councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Chandler? Speak to that, councillor Allgate.
No, it's all there.
All those in favour? Moved unanimously. Item 17, questions for the next meeting. Do we have any question? Councillor Turley?
Sorry, it's probably just a simple one. It just came up with Councillor Page talking about financial assistance grants. Did we put a submission into both the federal and the state inquiry into financial sustainability for local government? Great. Is it on the hub, is it? Yeah, thank you. And we did it for both. Great, thank you. We'll have it on the hub.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Councillor Allgate?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going back, I think it's gone back about 15, 20 years. There used to be a council, the original council crest displayed in the council chamber. I was just wondering if it could be reinstated.
No. Lisa, you don't vote? We'll do some investigation, Councillor Allgate. Yep, probably one will move, rather than a mayoral minute, just a motion of urgency, or I'll just move it as a mayoral minute. Just to write to Minister Rose Jackson, thanking her for the work she is doing with the Wilcannia Weir. Have a seconder for that? Councillor Allgate. Yeah, look, it was a mistake to change the design by lowering it, and I acknowledge that the minister did go up there and speak to people in that community, in the Wilcannia community, and she has given a commitment to delay the project and get honest community input. We all know that the real community input is they don't want it changed. So I have no doubt the minister, well, I'm hoping, I can't say I have no doubt, but I'm hoping that the minister does acknowledge the community and goes back to that original plan. Councillor Gallagher?
Yes, it's a bit of a thought on my side also that I've been very vocal on it for a number of years. It's good to see that someone's got common sense and taking the right approach and reinstating what the original was. But as we said before, and I said it the best, I said it again, say it again. Best time is to build a weirs when it's dry. And that's about now.
Yeah, look, and I think it is important that you do thank ministers when they do a good job by the community. Everyone can be a bit quick to have a go at people when it's not going the right way. So we need to acknowledge that it is a good move. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Public forum session. The second public forum session of 15 minutes will consider submissions from the public regarding matters that were considered by council at this meeting only. Speakers are allocated 2 minutes each to address council. Speakers from the public? No? No? We move on to confidential matters. Call for a motion to move into closed session.
Move that
Councillor
way.
Boland, seconded Councillor Allgate. All those in favour? Just for the public, there is Thank you, everyone. The general manager will now read out the resolutions passed in confidential.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item one, Merrill Minute number 11/24, General Manager's Performance Review 2023-24. Council resolved, one, that Merrill Minute number 11/24 dated July 25, 2024 be received. The council note the view of the GM Performance Review Panel that General Manager Jane Nankervis has performed at a very high level in the third year of his contract of employment as General Manager, Broken Hill City Council, and congratulates him on that performance and his leadership of the staff, and encourages him to continue the progress made in the organisation and in his personal development to ensure the council's continued financial sustainability. Three, that the 7 priorities for 2024-25 listed in the Merrill Minute be adopted and included in the General Manager's Performance Agreement for the 2024-25, noting the General Manager will develop an action plan for submission to the Mayor and Deputy Mayor to outline the actions to be taken to address the 7 priorities, so progress can be reviewed in February 2025. 4, that the General Manager's total remuneration package be increased by 3.5% to recognise his high performance in accordance with clause 8.3 of his contract of employment and to align with the same increase granted to all staff under the Local Government State Award. Item 2, Broken Hill City Council Report number 104/24, Broken Hill City Council licence to WTH Proprietary Limited, trading as Avis Australia. Council resolved, 1, that Broken Hill City Council Report number 104/24 dated July 11, 2024 be received. 2, that council enter into a new licence agreement with WTH Proprietary Limited, trading as Avis Australia, for the use of the car hire desk and parking facilities at the Broken Hill Airport. 3, that the licence duration be 5 years and the initial licence fee be $7,894 per annum, including GST, with a fixed increase of 3% per annum. 4, that the Mayor and General Manager be authorised to sign and execute the licence documents under the Common Seal of Council. Item 3, Broken Hill City Council Report number 120/24, Sale of Land for Unpaid Rates. Council resolved, 1, that Broken Hill City Council Report number 120/24 dated June 17, 2024 be received. 2, that council proceed with the sale of land for unpaid rates for eligible properties as attached to this report. 3, that council call for expressions of interest for services to undertake the process for sale of the listed properties. 4, that council delegate authority to the General Manager to take the following actions pertaining to the properties specified in the report. A, to withdraw from sale of any property that prior to commencement of the auction has had all rates and charges payable, including overdue rates and charges, paid in full, or a suitable payment arrangement has been agreed to and entered into, including a suitable upfront payment being made. B, to withdraw any property for sale for technical or legal reasons. C, to set reserve prices for sale of the properties at auction. D, to negotiate by private treaty and accept offers for sale of any property that fails to sell at auction. E, to execute sale and purchase contracts and property transfer documents under council's common seal. F, to write off residual rates outstanding due to shortfall in sale for individual properties. G, be authorised to appoint a council officer to bid on council's behalf for selected properties at auction. Item 4, Broken Hill City Council Report number 121/24, request for tender for supply of 6 utility vehicles. Council resolved, 1, that Broken Hill City Council Report number 121/24 dated July 5, 2024 be received. The council award the contract T24/4 request for tender for supply of 6 utility vehicles to Far West Auto Proprietary Limited for the total price of $320,000, $142, including GST. 3, the council proceed to repurpose the existing fleet to other council business units where appropriate. 4, the council proceed to public auction for disposal of existing fleet where appropriate. Item 5, Broken Hill City Council Report number 122/24, Thomas Street Road reconstruction from Chloride Street to Sulphide Street. Council resolved, 1, that Broken Hill City Council Report number 122/24 dated July 18, 2024 be received. 2, that GTE 1 Proprietary Limited be awarded the contract for T23/29 request for tender for Thomas Street Road reconstruction from Chloride Street to Sulphide Street for the amount of $799,763.85, excluding GST. 3, that the General Manager be authorised to negotiate with GTE 1 Proprietary Limited to increase the scope of works to meet the approved funding amount of no more than $1,308,327. 4, that the General Manager and/or Mayor be authorised to sign the tender contract and affix the seal of council if required. Item 6, tender report number 4/24. Tender Warnock Street Depot Garage Workshop Construction. Council resolved 1, that Broken Hill City Council tender report number 4/24 dated July 18, 2024 be received. The council award the contract for T 23/34 request for tender Warnock Street Depot Garage Workshop Construction to Structon Proprietary Limited for a total price of $4,893,660 excluding GST. That council approve a revised total budget for this project of $6,110,761 excluding GST. 4, the general manager and or mayor be authorised to sign the tender contract and affix the seal of council if required. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, General Manager. That brings the council